Hello there, I'm Jack Dougal, an IB Business Management and Humanities teacher, and we're back looking at using technology for research. Now, the traditional way is using Google, but we're not going to be looking at Google. We're going to update it. We're going to be looking at generative AI, things like ChatGPT. We're going to use the example that it has in the book, explain the benefits of technology in school, but instead of plugging that into Google, we're going to put it into ChatGPT and we're going to see what it comes up with. Let's dive in. So you can see on my screen, I've got ChatGPT 4 open. That's the paid version, but it works exactly the same with the free 3.5 version. I'm not going to be doing a lot with it in this video. Just very simply, I'm putting that question in, I'm clicking the arrow, and an answer should be coming back to me. And that's key in this, that it will be giving me an answer, its version of an answer, unlike Google. So the integration of technology, educational settings offers a multitude of benefits. We can see it's going through, but unlike Google, that's not the end of it. We don't want to just ask the question, read the answer and accept it. The whole benefit of generative AI is that it is two-way communication. So you can ask a question back. You can use the stop button over here. It seems to be going on too long. Far more briefly, please. That was too long, I didn't want to read it all, and there we go. Certainly technology in schools offers several key benefits: enhanced learning experiences, improved accessibility, preparation for the future. Great. Again, we don't leave it there. We can then keep chatting back and forth. Tell me more about improved access. A little typo at the end. There we go. So we can zone in on the information that we really want to know. It's working very slowly today for me. The aspect of improved access through technology and education encompasses, so we can get an answer to the question that we are looking for. Let's go back to the slideshow. What are the advantages then of using generative AI, things like ChatGPT, to answer questions that you want to research about? Well, the first is they're being called answer engines. Unlike Google, which produces a list, they are actually giving you an answer to the question, and they're understanding your question. You may have noticed, as I watched it back, I noticed, I had a typo, it continued. I spelled access wrong. It didn't phase generative AI though. It knew exactly what I was meaning because it understood the meaning behind the context. It didn't just match keywords. It took the context of the question, overlooked my stupidity, and still gave me relevant information. The second big one, as I stressed when we were looking at it, is its interaction. It's two-way. You can do so many things, which you'll learn about later on, that you can ask it to simplify the information, make it longer, make it shorter, explain it as if I was a 10-year-old. An amazing amount of potential that gives you this one-to-one learner. But what are the disadvantages? Well, there's a few. And we need to be aware of them. We need to think critically whenever we're using these things. The first is bias. Well, it gave an answer, but where did that answer come from? One of the disadvantages of ChatGPT is it doesn't say where it found that answer. Whereas Google, at least we know the websites it's going to. With ChatGPT, we don't know which websites it's found that information on. And it could be a website that's absolutely full of bias. Therefore, we have to be critical of that. Secondly, over-reliance. Once you start finding out, and once you get used to this, you're going to be using it a lot, and you can just suddenly, and children will suddenly start saying, well, ChatGPT told me, so it must be fact. So we need to be careful that we don't become over-reliant and all trusting of generative AI. Accessibility is another issue. Saw it in my video. Well, I use the paid version. It's going to give a much higher quality of answer than the free one, 3.5. And not everyone can afford that, and not everyone has even got the internet. So there's certainly accessibility issues to using it in the research. Privacy and security, be careful. You shouldn't be putting information in there that is too personal to you. It could be that that is tracked, so there's many people nervous about that. Finally, the big one, the quality. It is a little bit tied in with over-reliance, but there is this word hallucinations. Sometimes you can ask more questions and say, well, where did you get that? Because of course you can. Where did you get that information? And it's going to give you a citation. Beware. There are some reports coming out saying that on GPT 3.5, almost 80% of the citations are entirely fabricated or wrong. That falls a lot when we use the paid version. They're saying maybe 20% of those citations are incorrect, 80% are right. But that is a huge, huge problem. So we need to be using it cynically. If it is giving a citation, where has it come from? Is it correct? What are the solutions then? Do we avoid it? Well, I don't think so. Firstly, we're not going to talk about it today, but there are alternative AI sites out there. Perplexity and Consensus are fantastic. They will give you an answer. They are answer engines as well, but they will show you where they found the information. They will give you links to the websites or the research papers. They are fantastic tools for research. Secondly, well, I mentioned that word. It's be critical. Critical thinking is key for you and for students when they are using generative AI. Long time ago, in fact, when it first came out, I created this acrostic to check on your use of GPT. These are good little rules that you should follow whenever using generative AI to get the most accurate information out of it. First, converse, chat. Of course, I demonstrate that in the video. Secondly, I think it's a good idea to hypothesize. When you put your question in, you should roughly have an idea of the output. It's never sensible to throw a question you have no idea, because you won't be able to pick up on the nonsense. So have a rough idea of what you're expecting. Thirdly, adapt the question. A little bit like converse, but you can come back. There's an edit button. Adapt that question. Is it coming up with what you expected? Think for the T. You can't switch your brain off. That's going to be a tendency of the students and the bad students. They put it in, they get an answer, and they think they don't have to think. Well, obviously not. You need to think at the same time. Gather. When you get that information, ask it where it found that information, and then check those citations. Find them on the internet. As we said, it could be 80% of them don't exist, so you shouldn't leave it there if you're getting your research. If it tells you something, be cynical of it, go to other places, go back to Google. Work with them together. It may not be quicker, but it's going to give you better quality. Probe. More and more follow-up questions, the P. You just can't chat enough. Get it to justify. If it tells you something, my favorite, why? Why is that the answer? Keep probing. Make it prove that its answer is correct. And finally, the T of train. Practice. The more you practice with it, it's not a high-level skill. It is communication. And teachers, we are all experts in communication. But the more you practice with generative AI, the easier it's going to become, and the quicker you're going to become at spotting errors. So there we go. The pros and cons of using generative AI for research. Hopefully that's given you something to think about.